Joining me today, all we're going to need is a soft surface, and whenever you're ready, you'll meet me lying on your back. And we'll begin class with some knee sways, so with the knees bent, just swaying them east to west, left to right, doing whatever we need to do to wake up that body today. A few more here. And then when we're ready, we'll switch to pelvic rocking, where you're going to release your entire low back into the mat and then slightly arch the back from the mat, moving those hip bones forward and back, just trying to find that engagement in the abdominals and less pain in the back. Once you navigate that place, we'll float the feet to tabletop. We'll lift our hands up to the ceiling and lower them down to our hips, rapidly posting those hands up an inch and down an inch. We'll add breath here. We inhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Continue to pulse those hands down by the hips. Maybe come up a little bit higher. Inhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Gaze is just above the knees. And rest. Hug those knees into chest, sway side to side. We will get ready for bridging next. So we'll lower the feet down to the mat. Hands go on either side of us, and we lift those hips up to ceiling. Lower them back down. And again, squeezing the glutes as we bring them up to the ceiling. Lower back down. We want to make sure that rib cage is tucked down to those hip bones, resisting any arching in the spine. The focus isn't to raise your hips as high as possible. You just want to get to that point where you feel that engagement in those glutes. Squeezing and lowering. Exhale as you lift. Inhale as you lower. And then on our next one, we'll lift those hips up to ceiling, hold them there, and pulse the hips up an inch and down an inch, squeezing through the glutes, driving through the heels, keeping the rib cage tucked down to the hips. Lower yourself down, reset the body, and we'll get prepped for single leg bridging. Bend the right knee into chest, keep the left foot on the mat, lift those hips up to ceiling, lower back down. You want to keep that right knee bent, floating in the air, lifting the hips up and down, pressing equally weighted on each forearm on the right side and the left side. And then on our next one, let's hold the hips nice and high, straighten the leg, we'll lower it down, kick back up to ceiling. So you're flexing the foot as you lower, pointing as you lift back up. Keep that rib cage tucked down to those hip bones. Draw that belly button away from your t-shirt. We only have a few more here. You've got it. And then on our next one, keep that toe pointed to ceiling. Pulse those hips up an inch and down an inch. You've got it. And lower. Grab the back calf or thigh. You're going to pull that leg in twice and then switch. Breath work goes exhale, exhale, switch. Exhale, exhale, switch. Make sure you're lifted nice and high on the head, neck, and shoulders. You've got it. And rest. Hug those knees in. Great job. We'll reset, and then we'll do the same thing on the other side. Lower feet back down. Lift the left leg this time, and we're going to go into those lower and lifts of that single leg bridge work again. Pressing onto those forearms evenly, making sure we're staying lowered on the left side equally as the right side. Keeping our rib cage tucked down to our hip bones, resisting any arching in that spine. Lift leg to ceiling, lower and lifts again. Flexing as we lower, pointing as we lift. Exhale, lower. Inhale, lift. You got it. Few more here. And then on our next one, let's keep that toe pointed up to the ceiling. We'll pulse those hips up an inch and down an inch. For 3, 2, and lower. Grab the back calf. You're going to pull that leg in twice. Switch, grab the other one. Pull in twice and switch. If you want a challenge, you'll remove the hands from the legs and just let the legs do the work while you stay lifted on that head, neck, and shoulders. You got it. Stick to your breath work, exhaling, and rest. Let's get prepped for our roll-ups now. So we'll straighten the legs, lift the arms up and over those ears, and we'll begin to roll the spine up and over the body. And again, going nice and slow as we articulate one vertebrae at a time. Upper back comes down to the mat. You lift the hands overhead again. And repeat. So feeling a nice massage for those vertebrae each time you lower and each time you lift. Squeezing those inner thighs to touch, trying to keep the feet as stable as possible on the mat. Exhale, lift up. Inhale, wheel all the way back down. And then on our next one, we'll switch to our C curve. We will plant our feet on our mat, wheel our pelvis forward, find that C curve, stack our arms, and we'll begin to tap our elbows to each knee. Continuing to hold in our C curve, scooping the belly button in and up. And we'll begin to twist, tapping opposite elbow to opposite knee. Finding that nice twist in those obliques. Exhaling every time we reach to one side. Inhale, come to center. You've got it. Reach arms forward. We finish off with pulses. Keep that C curve. Keep the rib cage tucked down to the hips. And pulse up an inch and down an inch. For 3, 2, and 1. Reach those hands up to the ceiling. Dive down to your toes. And take that nice stretch for that spine. And then when we're ready, you will meet me lying on your left side. We'll have our left elbow down, hand will rest in its palm. Knees will be bent at a 45-degree angle. We can either have our hand on our top hip, or we can rest the hand and the palm down onto the mat in front of us. We're going into clams, so squeeze those heels together and lift that top knee away from the bottom knee and squeeze the knees back down to touch. And repeat. Opening up those legs, closing. I want you to think about using that top side of the glute. That muscle is working this movement here. And then on our next one, we're going to lift those toes up to ceiling. We're going to go into knee to toe taps. So disconnecting the heels, lowering the knee down, and then tapping the feet back together as we lift the knee. Finding that rotation in that hip. You got it. Keep that upper body nice and still. Find our pulses. Maybe option to lift that hand up to the ceiling, pulsing that top knee open and close. Lower that bottom leg, straighten up the top leg, flex the foot, lower and lifts. Lowering the foot down to the mat, lift back up to sky. Keeping the foot flexed so it shoots into that working glute. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. You got it. We'll point our toe and we're going to draw tiny circles with that big toe going in one direction. Make sure the foot is still lifted to engage that glute. You're almost done. And reverse. Drawing tiny circles in the other direction. One more push for this glute. Reach arm, flex foot. We finish off with pulses, just pulsing that foot up to the ceiling, up an inch and down an inch. Great job. Come up to seated. We'll take that mermaid stretch over to our left side. Lower that hand back down. We're going to plant that bottom knee down on that mat. Other leg will come out nice and long. And we're going to go into some oblique work here. So we're going to find our arms in a diagonal shape. We're going to find some lower and lifts for those obliques. So I want you to think about lengthening that top oblique every time you lower down. And then you crunch it to reach back up. Trying to find the right rib to hip connection. And then on your next one, if you would like a challenge, you will bend those elbows, place the hands behind your head. You're going to lower yourself all the way down with a little bit more control. Come back up. So you have a little bit more movement here, trying to dip that elbow down to that mat. Come back up, shooting through that top oblique, finding all that length, and then crunching on that top oblique's side. You got it. Last two. And last one. Twist to the ceiling. We're pulsing up an inch and down an inch. Final push for this oblique. You got it. And rest. Lower one hand down. Take that stretch over to that side. And then stretch to the other side. Great job. We will switch our legs and we'll go and do those obliques on the other side now. So having those arms in that diagonal, we lower down and we crunch that opposite oblique. And repeat, lowering down, crunching on that opposite oblique. Finding that rib to hip connection each time. Now you either stick with this layer or replace those hands behind our head. Lower ourselves down, lift back up. You decide what works best for your body. Few more until we go into those crunches. And twist. We reach to that ceiling, crunching on that oblique. You got it. Last one. And rest. Reach that arm up and over to one side and then reach it over to the other side. Great job. And then you will come meet me lying down on your right side. Once we are there, we place our head in our hands and we stack those knees on top of each other, keeping the hips stacked. We go straight into those clams, opening and closing that top knee. Keeping the hips stacked, but thinking about that top glute working for this movement. Exhale, open. Inhale, close. Now tap the knee, then the toes. Lifting those toes up to the ceiling. Finding that rotation in the hip. Finding that connection from the knee to the toes each time. You got it. A few more. Let's straighten that top leg, bend that bottom leg, and we go into those lower lifts with that flexed foot. Keeping that foot flexed so we shoot right into that working glute. As we lift that foot to ceiling, lower back down. And repeat. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. And then on our next one, we'll draw those tiny circles with that big toe going in one direction, keeping that foot high, and we reverse. No push, flex that foot, reach that arm, pulse that foot up an inch and down an inch. For 3, 2, 1. Hammer that hip out. Great job. And then when you're ready, you'll meet me in tabletop. You'll have your hands directly below your shoulders. Knees come down to start. We'll tuck our toes, and then when we feel comfortable, we'll lift up those knees, and we'll find our plank position. Shoot that right leg up to ceiling. Find your arabesque. Tap right knee to right elbow. And repeat. Exhale, reach up. Inhale, bend down. Keep scooping that belly button away from that t-shirt. And we go into elevators, lowering that knee to the wrist and then back up to the elbow. You got it. And reach into that arabesque again. Dive that foot forward, find your pigeon pose. Maybe you stay sitting up nice and tall, or you can go down to your forearms. Whatever feels good to just give that hip a stretch. And then when we're ready, we'll plant our hands back down. We'll uncross that bottom leg, bring it back up to ceiling to reset it, lower it back down. We'll find our arabesque on our left side now, lifting that leg up, tapping the matching elbow, and repeat. Exhale, lift up, inhale, tap elbow. Scooping that belly button away from the t-shirt. And elevator, lowering to wrist, back up to elbow. You got it. We're almost there. And done. Reach that foot. Drive it up in front of you. Find your pigeon's pose on the other side. Maybe come down to those forearms. And then you can tuck that foot back under you. Lift up those palms. Come back to your arabesque. Drop that foot. Find your downward dog. Maybe pedal one leg and then the other. And then when you're ready, you'll find your plank and then go into your swan, lifting the chest and the head up to the ceiling. And then you can lower down into your child's pose if that feels good for you. Letting the head hang low. Reaching the arms as much as they can go to the opposite side of the room. Great job. Thank you for coming to class today with me, and I hope to see you next time.